back on the SportsMax Zone. Cricket is still the topic of discussion, but we move away from the administrative side to the field of play. Now, rain continues to be a major player in the third test of the Border Gavaskar series at the Gabba in Brisbane, as only 57.5 overs were possible on day number 4. Now, India resumed the day on 51 for 4, replying to Australia's first innings 445. The Aussies looking to tighten their grip on the match and almost got the perfect start. But the usually reliable Steve Smith dropped KL Rahul off the day's first delivery. The right-hander was on 33. Mitchell Stark not too happy there. However, the Aussies didn't have to wait too long for the breakthrough as Captain Rohit Sharma's horrid run of form continued as he was removed by Pat Cummins for 10. What a beauty. Cummins hopping around, celebrating that fine delivery. Now, Rahul added 51 to his overnight 33 to lead India's batting with 84. He found a reliable partner in Ravindra Jadeja as the pair stabilized the innings, adding 67 for the 6th wicket. Jadeja contributed 77 as India closed the day on 252 for 9. Jasprit Bumrah 10 and Akashdeep 27 remain unbeaten, having ensured that the Indians avoided the follow-on so far, adding 39 for the final wicket. All right, let's turn to Fazir Mohammed for some analysis now of the 192 of the minimum 360 overs bowled in the match so far. I really hope I said that correctly, or at least you understand. Faz, a lot of rain in this one, but also a lot of good cricket, a lot of drama, and India doing very well on day number 4 to avoid the follow-on, and that means this one is looking, yes, and I say looking, like a draw.
Yeah, it points towards the draw, especially if there's more rain on the last day, obviously tonight our time, and that could probably just put it to bed completely. But it's important to highlight that missed chance by Steve Smith. I mean, KL Rahul benefits from another 50 runs, and again we can only speculate as to what would have happened. That last wicket partnership, which has already put on 39 runs when they were 215 for 9, they could have easily been knocked over, and then facing the prospect of the follow-on. Although it has to be said that it wouldn't have necessarily been automatic for Australia to enforce the follow-on, because they're one bowler short with Josh Hazlewood ruled out of the rest of the match and probably the rest of the series with another injury. He was already injured after the first test match. So it really depends on, one, how the weather behaves on this last day, and two, because Australia will look at the prospect of trying to force a victory, because they'll probably back themselves to get 10 wickets in 2 sessions if it turns out that way. But a lot will depend on wrapping up the Indian innings and then how they respond.
Yeah, very much, and how or whether the weather cooperates on the final day of the contest as well. But a lot for the Australians to be happy about, and as you rightly pointed out, they will want to push for victory because, like the second test, they have dominated this test. We've seen Steve Smith getting a century, a well-needed century for the Aussies. Head continuing his brilliant form. So, by and large, the Aussies have dominated this test match. And if they are unable to go on and win it, will feel very disappointed.
They will, but I get as also that it's almost as if they are resting the psychological advantage as well. Because remember, all the weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth after they lost the first test by nearly 300 runs. And the way they rebounded by winning the second in basically 2.5 days. And now they've really been in control for most of this test match, but for the rain, could very well have been on their way to victory already. But again, it's India, a formidable team, and they certainly have tremendous fighters in their side. So therefore, when you look at all that is possible on this final day, even if it were to peter out into a tame draw, I think going into the 4th test match, the Boxing Day test match at the MCG and all of the festivities and the aura that's associated with it, maybe nearly 80,000 on day 1 on Boxing Day, it could really set things up nicely for Australia to actually go and take a series lead in the 4th test.
Yeah, and as you speak about the excitement, the fight back from India, though, Faz, we still have to talk about that because that partnership between Akashdeep and Jasprit Bumrah was something that would have a lot of the Indians, feeling a bit better based on how they started when the wickets continued to fall. What did you think about that partnership?
Absolutely, and that's why I said that you've got to take into consideration that Australia are coming up against a fighting team. Yes, they may be against it right now, but you can't rule out India rebounding, even maybe on this last day and making things interesting. Who knows if they set a gettable target, even against the quality of the Australian bowlers. Everything remains wide open. I think that's why it could be an intriguing final day if the weather allows. But as you talk about Akashdeep and especially Jasprit Bumrah, I think Bumrah continues to show why he's almost indispensable now in this Indian team. Yes, with those runs towards the end, but it's almost an over-reliance on him now with the ball. We saw him starring as captain in the first test. We saw him again leading the way, even though his team was blown out of the water in the second test. But here again, in the third test match, you have someone who is showing that ability, that fight, that character with Akashdeep in that unbroken last wicket partnership, but more importantly with the ball as well, showing that really why he's considered number one and why he's leading the way. But yes, they'll want that last wicket partnership to continue for some time going into this last day, just to eliminate any realistic chance Australia may have of forcing a victory.
Yeah, and the innings by KL Rahul, also a very exciting one to watch. He's a player, Faz, that I have a lot of time for, just watching the way he approaches his innings. And again, he did it for India this time around when all around him, wickets were just falling.
And yes, he had his luck with that very first ball and that chance by Steve Smith. But he took it. He took the chance and the luck and built on it. And I think we were just having our previous discussion about players transitioning from white ball to red ball. I think our West Indies cricketers should look at someone like a KL Rahul and the way he's played this test series so far. Because many people were surprised that he was put in at the top of the order with Yashasvi Jaiswal. And he's actually outshone Jaiswal by a long, long way, notwithstanding Jaiswal's near double hundred in the second innings of the first test match. I think what he's shown is the fundamental technique, because so often, we are preoccupied with the reverse shot, the ramp, the switch hit, and this and that and the other. But if you've got that solid base, those fundamentals, whether it's bat close to pad, whether it's eye on the ball, whether it's back and across, however you term it, once you've got those very solid fundamentals, you can embellish it by becoming a successful white ball cricketer. But it also means when the time comes to adapt to the longer format of the game, to the ball seaming about, the difficult conditions with four slips and a gully and a forward short leg, you're just as capable of coping with that, and we see that in KL Rahul.
Yeah, and Faz, you talk about the Indian fight back, but the first major fight back illustrated in this test match came from Smith and Travis Head in the first innings, because I was watching Saturday night. I saw Labuschagne score 9 or 12 or 55 balls, Australia 75 for 3, and under pressure from Reddy, Siraj and Bumrah. And both Steve Smith and Travis Head looked as if they were going to be out any minute now. They were playing and missing. They were surviving LBW appeals. When I woke up in the morning and saw that both of them made 100, I was shocked, because that's not what I saw on Saturday night when I left the cricket. And that was an advert for Australia's fighting determination. As an admirer of Australia's cricket, Faz, as you know, I'm under pressure as a West Indian to justify why I like Australian cricket. But that weekend effort from Smith and Head, who looked at sea to real pressure from the Indian bowlers to rebound to both get hundreds, is something that I think West Indian cricketers can look at in the same way that you just mentioned that our players could look at Rahul and how he applied himself to the job at hand.
Absolutely, Lance. And I mean, your admiration, whether it's grudging or otherwise, for Australian cricket is shared by many, They just wouldn't admit it. But there's that admiration for that fight, that doggedness. And okay, yes, it goes over the top sometimes. Yeah. But as you said quite correctly, they could have been dismissed within deliveries of each other on that second day, because almost everything was flying past the outside edge, a couple of close LBW shouts, but it's about sticking to it. It's about fighting your way through and knowing that the longer you stay out there, for those who obviously would be out there regularly, but you look on and realize it, that the longer you are there, you have better chances of survival and then eventually prospering. And of course, Travis Head is a different type of cricketer in that he's going to give you a chance. He's going to take a chance. He's going to live on the edge and he's going to get away with it. And then the next time, he's not, like the two first ball ducks against the West Indies at the Gabba in January. So I think this is where we really enjoy the cut and thrust of Test cricket, because one day you could get 0, the next day you get 100, and a fighting 100 that everyone talks about.
Yeah, Faz, we've got to wrap now, but just quickly before we go, how disappointing is it that rain has affected the Aussies here at a Gabba ground where their record is so impressive, and to know that they've got the MCG and the SCG for the 4th and 5th tests, looking as if they're heading into those test matches with the series still level?
Yeah, they'll be very disappointed, Lance. So they'll be telling themselves, look, we should be 2-1 up.
Yes.
We should be 2-1 up already,
yes,
without going into a 5th day. But this is the nature of the game. As the English fans will remind Australia, they were saved from defeat in Manchester in the Ashes series by an entire day's rain. So you can't have it both ways.
All right, Faz, we'll see what happens tonight. Not much hope of a result there, but still a lot of cricket left to be played in this series, and it hangs in the balance. Thanks, as usual, Faz, for your expert comments and analysis. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone. More cricket to come after the break.